lot of people have been asking me lately why Thomas Paine of True Pundit hasn't been appearing on the show. And I've been speaking to Thomas regularly. He's been quite busy working on what is certain to be a shocking expose of an FBI cover-up related to the October 1st Las Vegas shooting. Now, True Pundit today ran their first story in this series, and the headline is that FBI insiders blow the whistle on massive Las Vegas cover-up. And basically the story goes on to talk about how details about ISIS involvement and all of that kind of thing were basically deliberately hidden, and information about other parties that may have been involved in the shooting have been covered up by the FBI. Now, I think a lot of people know that there's been a lot of lies coming from the LVMPD and from the FBI related to the Las Vegas shooting. And this True Pundit expose, this is just the first in a series that they're doing called Fear and Lying in Las Vegas. And we've seen a lot of lying, actually. There was a recent dust-up right here on Crowdsource the Truth where a certain investigator claimed to have evidence, but he's failed to show it. In fact, he's falsified evidence. And when I sent him several messages demanding that he show his evidence or else issue a public retraction, this individual, again, falsified and manipulated evidence to disparage me.
I've got this nutcase, Jason Goodman, one message after another, days of this.
Now, what Jake failed to mention in that smear video was that that was one message per day for 4 days, demanding that he provide the evidence or issue a retraction, and he's done neither. It's very strange to me. Why, if he has evidence that proves that Mohamed Bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, was in fact in Jeddah on October 1st, why doesn't he just present that evidence? I think everybody saw the video where I called the Saudi Arabian embassy, and they confirmed what Joe Napoli told us, that they simply do not give out information about the royal family over the phone, and that anyone and everyone calling there must submit a formal request in writing. Now, many viewers have suggested that, oh, maybe Jake has contacts at the Saudi Arabian embassy. Do you, Jake? Do you have special contacts within the government of Saudi Arabia that give you information that they won't give to anyone else? I wonder. But the amazing thing about Crowdsource the Truth, you see, I don't claim to be a truth teller. I don't know the truth. I'm looking for the truth like everybody else. I've just formed this process where we can work together, and it's working amazingly well, actually. After that ridiculous display by Jake, where he went on to join with other narrow-minded, bigoted, anti-Jewish YouTubers like Dean Fouget, who is also spreading false information without evidence with the intent to damage my reputation. Just produce the evidence and show that I was wrong. That would seem the most effective method. But anyway, what happened as a result of that dust-up is that a lot of very curious people in the Crowdsource community went and scoured the internet and actually found quite a few articles pertaining to Prince Bin Salman. One thing that wasn't really widely covered here is that on October 8th, just 1 week, actually less than a week, it was October 7th, there was an attack at the Jeddah Palace. Although this article says specifically that it doesn't really mention the whereabouts of the prince. They say specifically that they are not mentioning the whereabouts. And the Times of Oman had a similar article, even showing photographs from the attack on the palace in Jeddah. So the thing that we've learned from examining about a half a dozen of these different articles is that there's actually a very conspicuous hole in the reporting of the whereabouts of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman from September 29th to October 4th. Now, this doesn't mean that the Saudi Air National Guard had helicopters shooting at the concert, or that Maverick helicopters were co-opted by the FBI to chase them away. It doesn't mean any of that. And it doesn't mean that John Cullen is or is not a disinformation agent. It just means that Jake is working really hard to tell people to not look into Saudi Arabian involvement at all. And I find that so strange. See, the other irresponsible thing that Jake did when he showed you those text messages I sent him, in addition to not explaining that I was demanding that he produce evidence, which he refused to do, or issue a retraction for bolstering lies and spreading false information, he's refused to do those things. Instead, he's releasing videos conflating my demands for a retraction with the activities of an alleged stalker.
What are you doing here at my house? What are you doing here at my house? I'm calling the police. Get in the car and leave. Get in the car and leave. Get in the car. You've got 5 seconds before I call the... Get out of here. Get out of here.
So there we see a very agitated Jake threatening and intimidating an abuse victim. I don't know that guy. I don't know if he's being truthful or not, but oddly, Jake is working with him now. He's interviewed that guy. So last week he made a video trying to conflate my demands for a retraction of his lies, his blatant disinformation, and instead he tries to distract everyone with a video in which he abuses a victim of abuse. Now, again, I don't think that any of this means that all the stuff that Cullen was saying was true. As a matter of fact, 99% of what Cullen was saying might well be false. I think it was quite fantastic. And I'm actually very disappointed in John Cullen that at the exact moment that people begun to challenge his theories with strong evidence, he's gone dark and is no longer communicating with me. That also doesn't mean that he is or isn't disinformation. And I'm not defending the guy. I'm just saying, I don't know. He said Saudi Arabians might be involved. We've seen HDR CFX Cornwall produce a video in which extremely accurate 3D models of the hotel room that Paddock was supposedly found in don't seem to match the actual room. HDR CFX Cornwall has used a very scientific process to determine that it actually seems like the photographs were taken in a room several floors up. Several floors up from 32134 and 32135. Well, that's the Four Seasons Hotel, which is 45% owned by Kingdom Holdings, which is wholly owned by this guy, Prince Waleed Bin Talal, who is a vocal opponent of Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, of course, is an ally of Mohamed Bin Salman and King, what is it, Abdulaziz, I believe his name is. Anyway, this guy here, Waleed Bin Talal, was also among the Saudi royals who were imprisoned and allegedly aggressively questioned by private security contractors. This picture I'm showing right now is Waleed Bin Talal after being released from prison at the Ritz-Carlton in Saudi Arabia. Now you may be asking yourself, why is any of this significant? Well, again, I'm not saying that helicopters were used in the way that Mr. Cullen described, but there are a lot of good reasons to consider the possibility of some kind of Saudi involvement. Maybe not the Saudi government, but could Waleed Bin Talal have financed some aspect of this operation? I don't know. We do know that very early on, Laura Loomer reported, and she was adamant about this, that ISIS took credit for this attack. We haven't heard very much about that. And of course, the True Pundit article talks specifically about how the FBI has been actively working to cover that up. I don't know why, but we do remember from WikiLeaks this email between the Podfather, John Podesta, and HRod 17, whatever her email is on that illicit server. But in this email, they're talking specifically about how the Saudis were among those providing clandestine financial and logistical support to ISIS. So therefore, it would seem to reason that if ISIS was involved and elements of this attack took place in a part of a hotel that may be owned, that is in part owned by Waleed Bin Talal, and there was an attack a week later at the Saudi palace in Jeddah, and there's a conspicuous lack of reporting on the location of Mohamed Bin Salman from September 29th to October 4th, I think it's very relevant for us to continue looking at the possibility of Saudi involvement in the Las Vegas October 1st shooting massacre. Why is Jake Morphonios going to such great length to lie, to manipulate evidence, and to defame me? Jake, don't put strikes on my videos. Come forward with your evidence and prove me wrong. Show me the evidence or issue a public apology and admit that you lied.